usually my novels are entirely fictional, but sometimes I write about things that actually have happened to me and about my own experiences, although I fictionalize it. And that book resulted from an experience I had in which I was trying to finish a piece of writing, and I was getting constantly disturbed. And I said to my wife, well, I'd like to get away for a couple of weeks and just really finish this thing. And she said, well, why don't you go to Italy? Because I'm very fond of Italy. I'm a great fan of Italy's. And go off and write in Italy without disturbance. So I said, oh, well, thanks, I'll do that. So I got an air ticket from Edinburgh to Pisa, and I set off to Italy. And I was going to go to a place called Montalcino, which is a lovely little hill town in Tuscany. They have these beautiful hill towns, sitting on top of the hill with cypress trees. And this one is a town which produces a very fine Italian wine called Brunello di Montalcino. Highly expensive Italian wine, but very good.
Sounds like a terrible hardship you're working like,
I
must say.
Terribly hard. Anyway, I got on the plane, and on the flight across, I was sitting next to this very engaging Italian businessman who'd been in Scotland. He sold ceramics. They make these lovely ceramic things in Italy, and he'd been a business trip in Scotland. And we were chatting away, and the plane landed in Pisa, and I said goodbye to him, as you say goodbye to newly made friends on aeroplanes, and you go your separate way. I went out into the arrival hall, and I went to go and get my rental car. And I went up to the rental car desk and gave them my ID and said, you've reserved a car for me. They looked at this, the young man behind the desk looked at it, and he said, there's no reservation. And I said, well, I did reserve. He said, no, we've got no record of this. And I said, well, you actually sent me an email telling me that you've reserved this car for me. And I produced the email, showed it to him. He looked at it and he said, this is no longer valid. And
what?
so I was a bit taken back. And I said, well, if you can't give me that car, give me another car. And he said, no, I'm terribly sorry. This is a holiday weekend. All our cars are out. And at this point, my new friend from the plane, having collected his luggage, was walking past. He saw this incipient altercation, and he came over and said, is everything all right? I said, no, it isn't really. They're not honoring their obligation to give me a car. He said, don't worry, I've got a friend who's got a vehicle rental place close by. Come with me. And this is typical Italian friendliness. They're such friendly, helpful people. So he took me off a few miles away, went to his friend's place, and there was this other vehicle rental firm, went in, introduced me to the friend. Friend said, heard the sorry story. Friend said, oh, I'm so sorry, this is a holiday weekend. All our cars are out, and we've only got one vehicle left, and that is a bulldozer. And so I said, but I can't drive a bulldozer. I showed him my British license, said, license to drive cars. And he said, no, in Italy, cars include bulldozers. So I was in a very difficult position, Bee, because I couldn't. These people were being so charming, so helpful. I couldn't say no. So I signed the hire agreement.